Trump and Paul Ryan, they are meeting tomorrow. So the question is, who's got the leverage and who has the most to lose? And Hillary Clinton, she lost another primary to Bernie Sanders last night after Bernie tops her in West Virginia. Was this just about her comments about coal, or is there something much bigger at play here? Then we talked to the author of the Pulitzer Prize-winning book about ISIS. It is a petrifying story, and the book is scary good. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Well, Donald Trump, he gets closer to the nomination after winning 2 more primaries last night, all but a pro forma to this point. But everybody is instead looking to tomorrow. That is when Mr. Trump meets with House Speaker Paul Ryan in Washington, and the Donald hunt for a running mate continues. This morning, Donald Trump narrowing down his pool of potential running mates, and one of his closest allies, Chris Christie, in charge of his transition team, he could still be on the list.
I like Chris a lot. I'm not going to say ruling in or out. I would say that I have in mind 5 different people. I think they're excellent.
Trump also ready to revisit his relationship with House Speaker Paul Ryan, who said he's not ready to support the presumptive nominee. Both men set to meet tomorrow and already changing their tones.
He's a very good man. He wants what's good for the party, and I think we're going to have very positive results.
Ryan echoing unity could be on the horizon.
We can't fake that we're unified. We need to truly become unified. And to truly become unified, I think we have to have a good conversation with one another about the principles and the policies that come from conservatism.
But some of Trump's former rivals, they're far from that point.
How does it feel to be back in the Senate?
Well, I'm glad to be back here.
Senator Ted Cruz back at work at the Senate, but dodging questions on whether he's ready to back Trump.
What I am interested in supporting are free market principles and the constitutional liberties of America.
Senator Rubio saying Trump should change his temperament.
I think it would make it easier for him to get elected if he did, but ultimately he's going to, my sense is, he is going to continue to be who he is, and that's who the Republican voters nominated.
Now, the RNC head, Reince Priebus, he set up the meeting between Ryan and Trump, and it'll take place at the RNC headquarters. So among the questions to ask is, who's got more leverage in that meeting, Trump or Ryan? And what should we expect? Let's bring in our panel to get into this. Richard Brodsky joins us. He's a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and professor at NYU. And another good friend to the program is Scott Vanderhoff, former 5-term Republican Rockland County exec and co-chairman of the Palisades Institute of Dominican College, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. I start with a question at the top. I thought Paul Ryan expertly last week said, sorry, I can't go there yet. I can't nominate it. And I can't endorse Trump. I can't get behind him. Trump reacted as you would think he would, threatening to not invite him to the convention here, says he doesn't speak for anybody, whatever else, and he's backed down. But it's a nuanced dance here, because if you're Ryan, if you stay away from Trump, you alienate the base potentially that Trump has brought to the party. Conversely, if you get behind him and he turns into a train wreck, he's your train wreck. What do you think is on the agenda tomorrow, and who do you think has more leverage?
I don't know, but you're right on all counts. And I think they both have a certain amount of leverage. I don't think they really need each other in some respects. Trump has said as much. And Ryan, he wants to keep his position. He wants to make sure that the House still stays with Republicans. And it's happened before where Republicans simply turn and say, look, I don't care about the presidential election. Elect my guys at the local level, the congressional levels. But I really think it's not going to be, they're not going to come out and sing Kumbaya.
You don't think so?
Oh, no, because there's no principles or policies behind Trump's actions. He's not principled. He's simply running on the basis of what he thinks of in the moment, whereas Ryan is a true conservative. And here's the guy who dissected the budget more than almost anybody else and ran for vice president based on his conservative principles. I don't see these guys coming out. They may come out and say nice things about each other, but this is going to be a long dance, I think.
I think they're going to look for ways that they can cooperate with each other, ways that they can help each other. But I think Scott hit the nail right on the head there, because Paul Ryan is a conservative and Donald Trump isn't. And Ryan's not going to put himself or the House Republicans in support of a guy who's not a conservative Republican. That would be exposing them to their voters back home. So
But you know how the media is going to work,
Yeah.
Andrew. Every other day, Ryan's going to be asked a question. If he doesn't formally come out tomorrow and say, I fully endorse Donald Trump, have you endorsed Donald Trump yet? Have you endorsed Donald Trump? What are you waiting for?
I think they'll look for ways that they can work together, that they can help each other, and they'll accentuate the positive. And it'll be a day-by-day situation. When Trump says the next stupid thing or the next thing that isn't conservative, then the questions come back to Ryan as to whether he supports it or not.
It's the analysis of these two guys has been wrong for a year.
Nice
and
to
it's
see you too.
and you've been particular. No, I don't mean it in a personal way, but it's not about Trump and Ryan. It's about the fact that millions of Republican voters came out and said, we're not that conservative.
Oh,
we don't.
no, I don't agree with you at all.
They don't care about privatizing Medicare and privatizing Social Security. They don't care about taxing. In fact, they
How
support
about building the wall? How about keeping out all
It's a
Arabs?
mix.
How about
It's a mix. And as much as that was a big part of it, the fact of the matter is the voters of the Republican Party picked a guy who's not a movement conservative. So the movement of conservatives is saying, now bend over backwards and show us that you're with us.
And
No,
they're
he's not going to do
They're
it.
not going to. I mean, and he's not going to because he's not fully conservative.
He can't and he isn't.
But the conservatives aren't going to come to Trump. So the mountain's not going to come to Muhammad.
Let's see
Muhammad's
what
not
I
going to come
understand.
to
But here's where-
the
here-
voters pick somebody and the speaker's going to say, not good enough for me. That's a long-term problem that is not chopped.
Okay, but here's the problem. Paul Ryan's got a constituency of more than Paul Ryan. You've got every member in the House taking their cue from him. Now, some can comfortably say we're with Trump, some members of Congress, but a lot of others can't. And a lot of others have to say, if I get behind this guy, and by the way, in states that are normally red, you go to Arizona, New Mexico, you go to border states right now, you get behind Donald Trump, you're playing with political fire. Just ask John McCain. And he's doing this nuanced dance that I find, really difficult to watch from
Richard,
afar.
You're making my point. Ryan is setting himself up as the Speaker of the Freedom Caucus, the Koch brothers, and the hard right reactionaries. The members that give them a majority are people in Pennsylvania and New York, Peter King, who are not hard right wingers.
No, Peter King is a moderate, Richard. Come on. I mean, he's a moderate Republican. What I'm suggesting to you, no, this is not a conservative movement that Trump has moved, and it's also not a liberal movement. He's way off in terms of tax policies. He's way off in terms of what Ryan basically has stood for from the beginning.
And Paul Ryan is saying to him, come and dance in front of me and say all these conservative things.
And he's not going to.
And his members in New York and Pennsylvania are glad of it.
Yeah, but not
Okay,
in
but
Oklahoma.
Richard, for you to elevate that the voters are picking him because he's progressive or moderate on certain issues, he's the same guy who wants to punish women for having abortions. He's the same guy who says that he wants to bar all Muslims. He's the same guy who wants to have the wall built and have the Mexicans pay for it. He's the same guy who plays dog whistle politics on race, gender, and everything else. To make it sound like there is a policy debate that people are struggling with on Social Security is just fallacious.
It's a mixture of the two. You cannot. The hard right-wing Republican agenda.
I don't think it's
is
just hard
not
right-wing. I think it's...
Wait a minute, not his.
No, I think it's
Paul
not
Ryan-
just, I don't think it's just the hard right. I think the George Wills, for example, okay, which I don't consider a hard right wing. I think the George Wills are those say, wait, I'm not going to lie in bed with this guy politically because, my God, I don't know what he's going to do next year. There is zero
voters-
principles, right, left, or indifferent.
The voters chose him. This is not a popularity contest that George
is a
Will
popularity contest.
And George Will and 6 of the inside elitists got the pick. Voters said this is the message we want.
It's going to come down to whether Ryan and other elected Republicans think Trump is actually going to win this election or has a decent shot of winning this election. If they think he's going to bring out the numbers and actually could take the White House or make it close, they'll get in line behind him.
Okay,
But if they think it's going to be a drag on the party and a drag on all the Republicans on the under ticket, they'll abandon him.
I don't disagree, but the problem here is every time he speaks, he changes the position, okay?
Right.
And he can't keep doing that for these House members who, wherever they're from, okay, are running on certain policies for their particular congressional district.
And if I could, Scott, isn't it because every time he comes out and says, you know what, I think there should be exceptions in abortion or whatever else, then that congressman by their Democratic challenge is going to say, so do you support him or not? He's going to force them to have to
Absolutely.
take positions that aren't even going to be in the debates right now.
Yeah.
And to me, that, if I was a Republican, would petrify me the most.
Absolutely right. You have to remember, Trump is by himself. He doesn't represent anything. He doesn't represent the Republican Party. He is by himself. And the fact of the matter is, Republicans at one point or another during this campaign will have to really remove themselves from support.
I got to hit a break here. When we come back here, another rough night for Hillary Clinton. She lost another state. But the question is, what does that tell you about the state of her campaign? And also the latest comments by Joe Biden that have many Democrats wondering what might have been.